Morning. Welcome back to the KR Daily Transmission. So lovely to be here with you this morning. I had a few challenges come up this morning. That's why we're starting a few minutes later than usual. So thank you for your understanding. I love creating this time together, and it's been so special to read everyone's feedback in the comments about how our journey with deepening our self-love practice together as a community, how that's landing for you, what's unfolding for you, how it's impacting your relationship with your own heart and your relationship with others. I consider it a true, oh, and look, Sophia is here cheering us on too. She's really happy about that. Always special when she makes an appearance. Thank you, Sophia. So I was reflecting on what it's been like to be integrating these YouTube lives in the middle of my morning work schedule every day. And it's and there was a moment that I had yesterday where I really struggle with, or in the past, it's gotten a lot better. In the past, I've really struggled with perfectionism, which perfectionism is how we prevent ourselves. We create obstacles with perfectionism for loving ourselves exactly where we are at in our life. And if you've ever struggled with perfectionism, feel free to share about that in the chat, because good morning. Wow, it's so beautiful to see everyone coming on. It's important for us to know that we're not alone in what we face in the inner journey of self-love. It's so helpful to know that we're being mirrored by one another's heroic quest to heal those parts of ourselves that really desire to be loved beyond things like the sabotage of perfectionism. So, for example, yesterday, I had a moment where I thought to myself, wow, why did I choose this time to start the KR Daily Transmissions? And I remember the thought processes that I went through back in December about the timing, and really, you just don't know what's going to work best until you try it. And so one of the reasons why I was not leaning into, but just really feeling the voice of perfectionism rising up, it's because I always want to serve you to the best of my ability. And I've got to be honest, like first thing in the morning, my eyes are still waking up and I'm not my brain isn't fully firing yet. Like I'm way more of a night person. And so I was in the moment starting to feel, I guess, just struggling with the idea that I'm not articulate enough in the morning for these transmissions. And I had to sit with that and be with that. And I was like, well, this is perfect because this is a journey of self-love. And everyone's seen me do transmissions live for classes and for our journeys. And like, those were times later in the day where it was a lot easier to be more just all brain cells firing. But there's something I was thinking back about it. And part of my prayer to do this in the morning was to show you, my humanity. Like I have mornings too. and it's not when all the cylinders are firing, it's when they're getting warmed up. And it was important for me to explore that edge of not being at my most accelerated version and still showing up to serve, and learning how to navigate those different places within me that in the past would have honestly like punished myself for a decision like that. Whereas I'm leaning into the vulnerability of doing something different, unknown, new, exploring what it feels like to show up where maybe I'm not, as it might take me a few more minutes to articulate my thoughts or the teachings or the transmission than usual. And can I be okay with that? Can I love the one within me that was desiring to try something new, desiring to connect with you in a new way, desiring to be seen in a new way? Because it's really important to me that the Sophia Code ministry is relevant, that we understand that this is a heroic human journey of ascension, that we're showing up to the spiritual practice, whether we're in our A game or if we're, just rolling out of bed. It's like, can we love the totality of the human experience, the frail moments, the vulnerable moments, honestly, the ugly inner moments? Can we learn how to love ourselves and practice our leadership, even as some of the most challenging feelings and arise within us, along with, as we courageously face the places that have sabotaged us in the past with things like perfectionism or addiction or codependency? It's like, can we show up even as those really challenging feelings are happening? And I wanted to show myself, and I wanted to embody an example of like, yes, we can. We can show up to our purpose. We can show up to this really sometimes tricky journey of being human and divine at the same time. We can show up to our spiritual leadership regardless of how we feel about it or how we feel about ourselves. And I want to thank you for just allowing me to indulge in this moment of honest heart to heart sharing with you, because it's important, I think, for all of us to just really acknowledge those parts of ourselves that are driven by perfectionism, which is rooted in a lack of self-acceptance. And as we acknowledge and name those places and spaces within us that truly want to transform, when we name it, we can heal it. It's like it's no longer this dark, scary monster in the closet of our heart. We're like, oh, there you are, dark, scary monster of perfectionism. Why don't you come to the table? We're all having breakfast together. And there's that, avatar of your like archangel, ascended master, higher self sitting at the table. There's your inner child at the table, kicking their little feet, ready to eat a big plate of food. And there's the monster of perfectionism, and they sit down and they ask for a cup of coffee. And it's just like, everybody's welcome in the heart of self-love. And over time, when we name out loud what feels to be the monsters within us, we discover that those monsters really don't want to be monsters anymore. Over time, they're going to soften and reveal the angel within them. My journey with perfectionism, which our divinity is already perfect, but being human is an exercise in the perfection of imperfection, right? That learning how to love our own hearts from that perspective, that there's great value in the human journey, because there's so much we cannot control. There is so much that no matter how we want to bend something to our will, what we're learning through our human journey is the process of surrender, the value of being vulnerable, the extraordinary, paradigm shift from within that happens when you realize that perfectionism isn't even real. You can't even achieve it. It's not even possible in the human experience. It's simply a way to keep yourself on a rat wheel of, honestly, self-abandonment or self-sabotage, even self-hatred. Depending on how bad an addiction of perfectionism goes, it can borderline into like eating disorders and things like that, or addictions that really harm the body. That's when it's headed into self-hatred. So what is the opposite of that? The game of perfectionism that the ego structure will play with us. It's like, it's self-love, it's self-acceptance, and it's choosing to identify and celebrate what is the wisdom? What are the spiritual treasures that we are cultivating from the hot mess of being human? I know that for myself personally, being human has made me feel a lot more compassionate to other humans. It's cultivated that virtue of so much self-compassion that there's like an overflowing of compassion for others. So I'm wondering, how is this, where's this landing within you? I'm going to head over to the chat and see, is there any reflections that you are feeling about this conversation with perfectionism? Chelsea's writing in the word truth. Pam is sharing, yes, strength in numbers. Rose is writing in, I love this vision of the totality of all the parts of ourselves coming together at the breakfast table. I love that. Thank you so much. Meredith is writing in, this is perfect. It helps me to see others just being themselves in the heart. It's easy to love the flawless, to love the seemingly flawed or imperfect is really the heart song challenge. Thanks for sharing that, Meredith. Ashley is writing in, being human is so strange, emotional, and yet delightful. So there's this, Chelsea's also writing in, I have so much going on that I cannot be perfect in any area and have to be okay with that. Yeah, honest to goodness. And again, that's another part of the journey of being human. The more we create, the more we lead, the more we serve our divine purpose. It's like there is so much going on. And that again is where we rub into those edges of like the hot mess of being human, and that's okay. That's embodying the willingness to serve and lead, even with, okay, nothing is going to be perfect, but a lot of things can get done. That's an enormous act of self-love. And it's so wise that you're writing that in, Chelsea. Thank you. Let's see. Lila's writing in, showing up, being less than hitting all 12 pistons in the morning and being vulnerable to be seen is such an important example of self-love. I'm so grateful to see you and love your humanness. Oh, thank you, Lila. Okay, that's really sweet. There's some really, really kind comments. I appreciate that so, so much. Jade's writing in, I realize perfectionism has helped me feel safe, but it also kept me really small. Ooh, love that, Jade. I love that so much. Jade is one of our Sophia Circle leaders. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so I wanted to travel over to this passage in the Sophia Code with Mother Mary. I loved connecting with Mother Mary's teachings on self-love yesterday so much. And I want to thank you for going there with me yesterday. And today we're going to be reading from page 180 in the Sophia Code. And this is from Mother Mary's Key Code 4 Initiation. Now in section 2 of the Sophia Code, we have a series of 8 Key Code initiations, and these initiations activate what we call the divine genome within every cell of your body to anchor and download an ever-increasing amount of the crystalline light of your higher self. This crystalline light of your own divinity, your higher self, is the very divine light that softens us to love our human journey even more. It's the source of our self-love. Our connection to our higher self, which, by the way, your higher self is manifesting your human journey. This divine part of you unconditionally loves you and is enormously grateful, as Hathor teaches in her chapter, in her revelations. Your higher self, your soul, is so incredibly grateful for your willingness to have this human experience, because everything that you are living is generating wisdom, insight, and a mirror for your soul to identify itself in the glory of its divinity. There's a whole multidimensional process that happens in the journey of ascension between the human incarnation merging with the light of your soul in real time. And that real-time merging is a data transfer between, the biofeedback of what it's like day to day to be living your human experience goes directly into your soul. And then your soul is sending you information, support, and help if you're willing to receive it in your heroic human journey, moment by moment. And as this relationship between your divine consciousness and, the hot mess of our human consciousness continues to be a consistent experience, we learn how to soften into what is the adventure of being human. It's learning how to love and accept the adventure, the imperfections of being human as the perfect vessel for our divine light to pour through in this lifetime, both for our own hearts, but also for others as well, as we serve others through our spiritual leadership. So this journey of reconciling with the truth of your sovereign divinity, it is the source of your self-love. It wasn't even possible for me to love myself in my own healing journey until I started to deeply focus on my higher self every day. That brought a lot of perspective as to the purpose of the pain that I was living in, and a lot of wisdom for how to transform the trauma that I had survived into soul power. And so Mother Mary was such a huge part of that shift from self-hatred to self-love. Like, learning how to trust Mother Mary as an ascended master mentor was one of the greatest shifts of my personal journey. It's, Mother Mary is right at the heart chakra in the order of the key code initiations. She's key code 4. And she shares all of these teachings where you could think about the heart chakra as a rose that can blossom and open. And that's why I designed her pendant as this, blossoming blue rose with these sacred flames. It represents the heart opening to the divine feminine Christ consciousness within you, and how that completely changes your relationship with your own heart and your relationship with life. So in every key code initiation, you meet the ascended master in a guided meditation, these beautiful visionary guided meditations. The details are just sumptuous. And then you are, what happens with the ascended masters is they walk you through a series of releasing belief systems that have held you back from claiming and embodying your sovereign divinity. And then they reinstate and download the activations within these very powerful initiatory journeys. The belief systems on every level of your being, that need to be activated for you to number one, for the divine genome, the bridges of light to be built from your divine genome to your physical form, but also for you to really claim and embody those belief systems in your emotional, on every level of your being, in your emotions, in your mental body, and even in your spiritual light bodies. So Mother Mary's key code initiation is one of my favorite initiations. The ecstatic bliss that I went through channeling this initiation was kind of hard to describe. To go on the journey of witnessing, how multidimensional the soul is. I did my very best to channel the words that recreate that experience for you. And on page 180, we are, if you want to turn on in your copy of the Sophia Code to page 180, there's this conversation that's happening between myself and Mother Mary, but really, whatever I experienced channeling here was for you as well. It was for all of us. So really it's between the reader and Mother Mary. This is a conversation between your heart and her heart. And on page 179, she's sharing how much she wants to connect with you eye to eye and heart to heart, that she has no interest in you worshiping her or putting her above you. What she's extremely interested in is having a conversation between equals. And from that space of equality, Mother Mary can mirror back to you just how interested she is in supporting and mentoring you in your own greatness and fulfilling your own destiny and creating your own legacy of love, just like she did. So these words that she's sharing were so life affirming for me. They created so much emotional safety in approaching my mentor relationship with her. I'm so glad that they're here for each of us. And actually, we'll begin at the very bottom of 179. Mother Mary begins this. She's saying, thank you for opening to my presence and receiving my transmission. These are like affirmation statements that reinstall new belief systems for you to mentor directly with Mother Mary. And she's saying, as you receive my words, may you feel my accessibility as a mentor. That's important, to feel how accessible she is in any moment that you would like her support, her reflections, her divine interventions of grace. The next line says, as you visualize my words, may they dissolve all your defenses to self-love. Isn't that powerful? That's the name of Mother Mary's game. She's saying every channeled word in her chapter of the Sophia Code is there not to glorify her, it's to dissolve your defenses to self-love. I mean, if that isn't the essence of a true whole mother, I mean, that is like motherhood in its most sovereign whole moment, right? It's just like everything that she's offering you in the Sophia Code. It's to dissolve your defenses to self-love. When I wrote those words and I channeled them, I remember thinking, yeah, that's how many defenses I have to self-love. There's a lot of words here from her. And I need all of them. It's really important for me to understand, like, that's the depth of what I'm healing and empowering here in this lifetime. And I know for those that are attracted to the Sophia Code, you also are earth angels. You also have very important, powerful destinies and divine purpose and leadership. And well, it takes a lot of healing and willingness to become committed and consecrated to a self-love practice to fulfill your destiny and your divine purpose. In a world that is currently set up to distract you from loving yourself, on page 180, Mother Mary shares that as you hear her words, may you remember that your humanity is divine. So as our humanity is an emanation of our divinity, isn't it interesting that our divinity believed that being human was worthy of itself? That our divinity saw the perfection of the seemingly imperfect journey of being human, which is actually a profound vessel for the perfection of our divinity to pour through and reach others in this world. Mother Mary goes on to share, as you taste my words, may you savor that I too walked the earth just like you. And as such, my assurance is trustworthy. Whatever it is you desire, it can be done. What is she saying here? As you taste my words. Well, Mother Mary is attempting to convey to you that her earthly journey was extremely important to her. She valued and loved her human journey with all of its challenges and all of its pain and all of really even the trauma of it. She valued it so much. She savored it. And she is asking for us to love ourselves enough that we will value and savor our own journey here on earth, because honestly, it's not very long. It's only a moment in eternity, just one moment in eternity of your evolution. You'll never be this same human being ever again. And there's something extraordinary and very special that your higher self is choosing to experience as you in this human body, in this lifetime. And we don't want to miss that message. We don't want to miss that memo. We want to discover through our self-love why we can savor our own human journey in the same way that Mother Mary did. And she's saying, just like you, she's saying, please know how relatable I am. She's saying, when you call upon me, I'm not going to judge you for your tears or how you've been shaming yourself or even addiction. She's saying, I'm just here to help. I'm here to help. And then she's saying, as such, my assurance is trustworthy. Whatever it is you desire, it can be done. Now, this is an interesting teaching on self-love. What Mother Mary is sharing in her initiation is that if you are willing and you love yourself as a true practice, there really, what you can achieve, what you can accomplish, what you can create in this world really is just as unlimited as the divinity of your soul. And what she's saying is that she knows this for herself because she lived in all of the same wild circumstances that we're living in here on earth. She knows what it takes to fulfill an earthly mission. And she's saying, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, it might not happen the way your ego structure wants it to happen. It might not happen the way you might want to control how it unfolds. But she's saying, I assure you, it can be done. And part of that is when we love our own hearts so much that we learn that trusting life is safe. So, for example, I don't know what happened, but when the year of the dragon, we are in the year of the dragons right now with the Sophia Code community. But when the year of the water tiger started this February, I just always feel that Lunar New Year so strongly in my bones. Of course I feel it January 1st. I don't know if it's from my parallel lifetimes, where that was my true north for a new year. But whenever that Lunar New Year happens in the end of January, February, I feel it in my soul, in every cell of my body. When that tiger came in, I felt it. I love tigers. And one of the surprising things that happened for me, because I'm a fire dragon, was I'm used to making anything happen. Like, okay, well, I'll just take action. I'll just, figure out a way. I'll figure this out and I'll just create it, and one of the things that I felt with that Lunar New Year shift was anytime I've let go completely and said to myself, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to invite life to surprise me. Some of my most poignant beauty way moments have been being surprised over and over and over again by the beauty of life, and having experiences. I had several experiences last night. I didn't plan it. I didn't even think about it. There wasn't anything I was trying to make up to have those experiences. They just simply appeared and came into my reality. And so that's an example. We can apply that example to the more we drop into self-love, the more we understand that our higher self has the hands on the steering wheel of our life. And we learn how to loosen our grip on what we're doing and create. It's not that we're not actively engaged, but we most certainly are. But there becomes a gentler, more dynamic and expansive co-creation with the higher self-consciousness that's seeking to surprise us and delight us beyond our most immediate understanding or of how we could make something happen. Self-love expands us into the power of the universe. Self-love expands us into the co-creative, incredibly dynamic and multidimensional manifestation power of the source. And when we start to love ourselves with an increasing amount of focus, we start to let go of the controlling coping strategies such as perfectionism or addiction that could keep us from enjoying a greater level of flow and abundance in our life, from connecting with this universal life force, which requires us to trust that the unknown doesn't necessarily have to be scary. It could be delightful. It could be fun. It could be a wild surprise. And Self-love is the path to opening our hearts to the delightful surprises of life that can simultaneously quantum leap our consciousness in unexpected ways. So that's what Mother Mary's sharing about here in this passage from the Sophia Code. And I want to thank you for, choosing to explore Mother Mary as an ascended master mentor. Maybe you could even journal with Mother Mary today and ask her to bring you an insight of how you can surrender just a little bit more into this beautiful, radiant love that you have for your own heart today, and allow that radiance to warm you and to brighten your path for whatever is here to be loved and lived today in your life. Thanks so much for joining me for today's live. I pray that whatever I was able to articulate this morning was helpful for you. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for sharing your comments in the replay. I love reading your feedback. And if you're new to my channel, thanks for subscribing. It's so helpful. It shows others that, it's cool for them to explore this journey of self-love for themselves as well. I'm so grateful for all of your loving support. If you have any questions about the Sophia Code or our upcoming event in Austin, or any of our sovereign soul events that we have for the Year of the Dragons, feel free to reach out to us. My team angels love getting on the phone with you and helping you explore our mystery school and all of the incredible offerings that we have for you. So anyways, thanks so much. It's been wonderful to connect with you live today, and we'll see you back for our Q&A, our KR Daily Transmission Q&A tomorrow. All my love to you. Namaste.